China is founding member state of the United Nations, is a founding member state of the United Nations. Our UN correspondent Liling Tan takes a look back at the world body and its influence over the past 70 years.
The year was 1945. After two devastating world wars, Allied powers, fresh from a costly victory, decided the world cannot afford another war. And so on October 24th that year, the United Nations was born to prevent war, uphold human rights and international law, and promote social progress. It began with 51 member states, but as colonies dissolved and new nations emerged, the number has grown to 193, each country with a seat today at the UN General Assembly.
And that's what the UN does. It brings 193 countries together, like we do every September in this very hall where we're standing, where countries that may never speak to each other during the year find themselves literally sitting side by side.
Where the General Assembly is the UN's main body, the Security Council is its mightiest arm. It can impose sanctions and embargoes, decide when to use military force, and refer war crime cases to the UN's International Criminal Court. The Secretariat is the nuts and bolts of the whole operation, helmed at the top by Ban Ki-moon, the UN's 8th Secretary General.
The Secretary General is not a head of state. He doesn't have powers of a head of state. What he does is he has the power of the bully pulpit, he has the power to speak out, and he has convening power.
That means the Secretary General can bring very, very important people together to source money, troops and supplies for UN missions and resolve conflicts. But that's all easier said than done. In its lifetime, the UN has been divided by the Cold War, tested by conflicts in the Middle East, challenged by unrest from Africa to the Asia-Pacific. It helped to end apartheid in South Africa, but failed to stop genocide in Rwanda and Cambodia. It persuaded some states to give up nuclear weapons, but failed to keep others from developing them. As the UN marks its 70th anniversary, the world is watching closely. More than 150 world leaders will be here to attend the UN General Assembly. And I'll be among thousands of journalists and news crews reporting from here. We'll be looking at how this world body, made up of member nations, can prove that it is more than the sum of its parts. Can it alter the fate of Syria, Libya, Yemen? What about South Sudan, the Central African Republic, Ukraine? Can it stop killer viruses, solve a monumental refugee crisis, end violent extremism, threats that defy traditional borders?
Like ISIL, like climate change. Pandemics. These are what we call problems without passports, right? We don't respect borders. Ebola doesn't know borders. Climate change doesn't know borders. And unless all 193 countries that sit here throughout the year, and especially in September when their leaders come together and agree on a plan, on a way forward, we're not going to get anywhere.
But anywhere may not be enough. Critics argue that the UN leadership needs an overhaul to better represent new influential nations, reflect modern geopolitics and address the new era of conflicts. And maybe then we'll get somewhere. Liling Tan, CCTV, New York.